So let's move on to the next iteration to add a new contact. This is an exciting iteration because it's the first time we're going to deal with managing our own the return from the second screen using the modal segue. So we start with the problem formulation and the scope. If that problem is that enable the user to add a new contact to the list, and comes after that, and we'll see that in the when we think about testing. So the testing scenario will test the scope, meaning that user selects add new contact, enter the information, and observe the contact is added to the list. But there is another case that is hidden inside this, that if you're adding a new contact to the list, you should also be able to see the details of that contact. So even though it's not directly in the scope, I also need to test that user selects the new contact and the app displays the full details of that contact. And we need to make sure that the other contacts are not affected. So user selects the sample contact and the app displays the corresponding data, so that the new addition did not disrupt what we already had going. So in the solution formulation, we're still gonna follow the model, the view, and the controller. We don't have any new addition to the model. We're still using objects of contact person like we did with the contact details. The add new contact in an essence is the reverse of the contact details. In the contact details, the user selects a contact and the app shows the display. In the add new contact, we're going to start from here, where the user will enter the details, then the app will add it to the list. So it's kind of the reverse of that. So in the model, no addition here, but in the view, we will need to do multiple things. Similar to the add new contact, to the contact details, we need add a screen to provide the user the opportunity to enter the details. Then we need to use certain user interface components, so add text fields to allow the user to enter the contacts. We used text fields in module number 3, the unit conversion, and we used the UI text field. You can use the view controller with 3 text fields, but since we are exploring the table view controller, I'm going to use the UI table view controller here as well, and we'll use the static table view controller. So in the controller, I need to add a new custom controller to manage the add new screen. And in that new custom controller, I need to connect the text field so I can retrieve the data, connect the text fields, and I will also need to manage the segue coming back. So one of the challenges in the add new controller is there are 2 possibilities when I return from the add new screen. If you envision that this is the screen where I'm going to be entering the details, there is one possibility that I entered the detail, everything is good, I want to go back with those details. There's another possibility that I change my mind. I decide I no longer need to enter those contact details, so I want to go back without the details. Because of that, I cannot use the show segue. The show segue give me only one path to return, and it's a very controlled path. I need to manage my own return by offering more than one option. So I need my own control over the menus here and manage my own options. One of them would be cancel, don't do anything, just go back. And another one would be save, meaning that save that contact information back to the list. So the custom controller will be more involved, that it has to manage these two. But similar to the contact details, the list is managed by one screen and the details are displayed on a completely other screen. The add new contact will be the same. The add new contact will be added on one screen, and the detail and the list will be on a completely separate screen or separate controller. In iOS, every screen and every controller is its own isolated island. So we'll have to find a way to pass the data from the screen back to the list. We have learned in the past how to go from the list to the detail. Here we need to learn how we go from the details back to the list. And we'll see how we do that. So we're gonna implement exit segue to cancel or save the new contacts, and we'll implement the prepare for segue on the add new controller to capture the details and save it to the source and save it to the list controller. And on the controller, you'll learn about the exit segue, that the exit segue connects the action on the add new screen to an action function on another controller. It's going to be very interesting. You'll see that on the address book screen or controller. Add the exit function, the exit actions, which is the actions that takes place or that happens when the user initiate the different exit segues. So in the solution implementation, I'm gonna start with the navigation. So add a new screen, add custom controller, and connect it. Configure the new screen with the text field. Add text fields or connect the text fields to the controller, and add an implement, and then implement the prepare for segue, and then implement the exit actions in the address book, and then implement the address action and the address book, and then connect the exit segue to the actions, and then test commit. So let's take it step by step. Start by adding the screen. So here is my table view controller. I'm gonna organize my storyboard a little bit, so I'll move the details down and bring this one here. And then I need to add the new controller. So right click, add a new file, Touch class, and this will be add new contact table view controller. It's a subclass of UI table view controller. And then next, I want to save it inside the group, and then create. So that creates the add new contact. So back to the storyboard, Then I need to connect my new screen with that. So I go to the identity inspector and connect with the add new contact table view controller. And then I no longer need the project navigator. So, so I can focus on the add new contact. So this is a table view controller, and then select the table controller. I don't need it to be dynamic prototype, so I'm going to use the static cell, and I have one section, and I'm going to group that section. And as we did in the past, in the add in the section, in the document outliner, I can enter header, so I can say enter contact detail, contact information. And then in the footer, I'll say press cancel or save to return to the list. Then if I open the table view cell, all the customs I have display only labels. So I don't have a custom style that includes text fields. So this means that I need to create my own. So if you select the cell or the content view, I need to add to that content view a text field. So here is my text field, and I add the text field to the content view and give it the appropriate width and height and align it correctly within the content view. And as we did with the text field, I can specify a color, a font, and the placeholder is very important. So we'll use the first one for enter first name. And the clear button, I like it to be appear while editing. Capitalization, maybe words, it's going to be a name. I don't want correction nor spelling check because it's going to be a name. And then well, maybe correction because Xcode is smart, so it can figure out if you're trying to type a name from that you use frequently on your phone. And I need the default keyboard here, and that's it, nothing else. Maybe give it a different color so that you can. I'm just trying to show you that you can play with those different colors. Then we need to add another one for the second cell and align it with your first screen, and in the placeholder enter last name. So I use the placeholder, not the text, so pay attention to that. The text is something on the screen, on the text field that you have to delete, but the placeholder goes away once you give the text field a focus. I'm going to give it a color, and the same thing, I want capitalization, yes for the correction, no for the spelling check, and the default keyboard is fine. And then the last one, this will be for our email. So we'll say enter email address, and yes, 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 default, no, and everything there is the same. So I added the text fields and I set up my second screen. Now I need to link my address book to the add new controller. So I need to add a bar button item here. So I can search for it, bar button item, and drag that to this. And in the style, there are some system styles, and one of them is the @ so you want to use those so that common operations have the same look and feel. And then connect that button to our screen, and we can show. I'm going to use the present modally. The present modally give us opportunity to manage, gives us an opportunity to return back differently. I'm gonna give it a name. So this is the identifier. So I'm gonna call this add new contact segue. The presentation of the modal can have multiple forms, and the transition can be in different ways. So you can flip, you can curl, cross dissolve, or cover vertical. I'm gonna go with cover vertical here. With the modal segue, it is recommended that you wrap the controller in another navigation controller, because you have a navigation controller here, and then you have that modal segue. So I'm going to go to the editor and embed in navigation controller. So that gives me management of the navigation bar in my contact details. So it looks like that. My whole screen looks like that. And since I have the bar button item, I can go ahead and add one to cancel. So instead of this title, I say cancel. And then another one, which will be the save. And there is actually, I think, a save here, but it's a title one. Doesn't have any images. So I can use this custom. There's a cancel, so I can use it. It goes the same way instead of the title. So I have added the titles and added everything. So what left for me is to try that exit segue and to implement the controller. Before implementing the controller, let's see how we can do the exit segue first and try it on the cancel, since the cancel, all what the cancel need to do is to take us back to the list, and it will dismiss anything that is happening here. So so it requires that I first implement the exit action, then connect the exit segue. So to implement the exit action, let's go to the address book controller. So here is my address book. You can go any place. I'm just going to go all the way after the prepare, so towards the end here. And to implement the action, we need to define an IB action, which is a function, and I give it a name. So I will call this cancel, or cancel, or dismiss, or something like that. And then in the parameter list, I need to add a segue. So I say cancel new contact. I use this as a title or a label for the parameter. And then my parameter is a segue, and the type is UI storyboard segue. This is very important. So the function has to be defined with an IB action and with a UI storyboard segue as a parameter. Once you do that, the function will be visible to be to be used. The function will be visible to be used as an exit segue. There is an exit segue button here. So if I select the cancel, press the control, and drag to the exit segue reference, you can see a list of that cancel with new contact. So it's the function we created. The name is cancel, and then it's using the label that I had, cancel with new contact, or probably I should have labeled it cancel segue. So cancel with cancel segue. So if I select that, it links this button with that function. So every time the user click on this button, it goes to this, it's called here unwind segue, to cancel with new contact. That's the function that I have. So if I go back here and say dismiss the table, since I'm a member of UI table view controller, one of the functions I have access to is the dismiss. So the dismiss function will dismiss the controller that's on the list. So you want to animate the dismissal? Yes. Upon completion, do you want to handle the completion? And I'll put nil no handle, no code to handle completion, meaning that after dismissal, if you want something to happen, I don't want anything to happen after that completion or at the end of the completion. So let's try that and see what it gives us. So I'm kind of divided that iteration into kind of sub iteration, implementing the cancel first, then implementing the save, because exit segue is new to you, so we'll see how it works. And then with the save, it's going to be exactly the same, but with the addition of the data coming back with us as well. So here is the add new. So if you click on it, it brings nothing. So it brings the save and cancel, but we see nothing in here. If I press cancel, it works. So at least the cancel segue is working correctly. But why no cells are being displayed? I think I know why, but let's review. So here are our cells, and here is our table. This is a section. So here is the table view, and we said for the table view it's a static cells. So let's see in the controller, the add new contact controller, the add new contact table view controller. I forgot to remove the template code. So notice here in the template code, there is the number of sections function. It is defaulted to active and defaulted to 0, meaning there are 0 sections and 0 row. Those functions override the settings that we did in the storyboard. So I need, like we did with the contact details, I'm not going to use any of those marking or any of those template code. That template code is meant primarily for the dynamic prototype. So where it says mark table view data source, start selecting. In the contact detail, we selected all the way down, but notice the very last one is called the navigation. I need that. I need that because it has my prepare for segue. Or if you by mistake deleted it, that's fine, but we're going to have to rewrite it and recreate it again. So I'll keep the contact details and delete everything else. And I don't need that stuff here, so we'll delete that as well. So by removing the functions that overrides the number of sections and number of rows, I should at least get my text fields to appear and be able to show them, to at least type stuff. It's not gonna save because we did not implement the save, but we should at least see it. So here it is, and I should be able to type. So I can type, and of course I shouldn't be typing this particular one. Looks like I forgot to add the clear button on the last name, but it is here but not on the last name. And then cancel, so we go back fine. So so everything seems to be working. So what is left is I need to capture, if the user selects save, I need to capture these and save them to the list. So I go back to this one first to fix the last name clear button. So the clear button appears while editing. Then I need to connect. I connected the text field, so I need to go to this one. No, I did not connect the text field, so I need to connect the text fields. So bring in the assistant editor and select each one of the text fields. So here is the first name, control drag, and then we call this text first name. Connect them as outlets, and the same for the last name, text last name, and the same for the email address. So text email address. So I connected all three of them. So similar, very similar to what we have done before. I also here need to create a property. So I'll say var and contact, and we'll assign this to contact person type, and we're not gonna initialize it. And then in the navigation, I want the prepare. So in the prepare, I want to capture all of this and assign and create a new contact with this information. But I only want to do that if the user selected the save segue. So let's create the save segue and give it an identifier, and then make those changes. So to create the segue, first we add the action in the address book. So I switch to the address book table view controller, IB action function, and we're gonna call it save. So the save here will be with save segue, and this is the segue storyboard segue. I can actually implement this here. No, I have to get the contact first. We implemented the contact, didn't we? Yeah, we implemented the contact. So let's get that done. So in the save segue, what I need to do is to retrieve the new contact from the add new contact controller, and then add the new contact to the data source, and then refresh the table view to update the list. So to retrieve, I have the segue, and the segue connect both, but in this case I need access to the source, not the destination. So I say to the segue, give me access to your source, and I need to change the type to the add new contact table view controller. Then I need to get that as a new contact from the source.contact. So that gives me this. Then I need to add it to my data source. So I go to the data source and say add contact, and pass on the new contact as the contact I'm adding. And because I had that exclamation, I need to suppress that error. And then I tell the table view reload data. So when I tell the table view to reload the data, it will run again the number of section, the count. So it's gonna get the updated count and build new set of cells. Once you do that, then I need to dismiss the view. So I'll say dismiss animated true, and upon completion, don't do anything. So now I go back to the add new contact, or actually to the storyboard, and connect the save to that segue that I created. So press the control key and go to the exit segue marker here, and you can see the save action. So connect that to it, and you get the unwind segue. I need to give each one of those an identifier. So if you select from the table, the document outliner, the unwind segue to the save, you see here the identifier. So I'm gonna call this save segue, and then I will go to the cancel and also give it an identifier, cancel segue. I'm gonna need the save because that's the special case, but it's good to name the cancel as well. So switch to the add new contact, and then in the prepare for segue, I need to initiate the contact, but only if the segue identifier is equal the save segue. Only in this case I want to initialize the contact with the text property of all of these fields. So I'll say contact equal, and then use the initializer of the contact person, and I created an initializer that receives first name, last name, and email. And then in the first name, I'll use the text field, text first name, and use the text property from that. And I need to add the exclamation point. And then in the last name, I use the text last name and get the text property and the exclamation point. Then finally, the email address. So I'll say text email address and the text property and the exclamation point. So that's all I need to do, is to initialize that contact with the information retrieved from the text field. So let's see if this works. So I implemented, I added the new screen, did this, did that. Looks like I have everything. So let's hope that I actually do. So I have 2 contacts. So let's add a third one. So first, cancel is still working. And then let's go to the first name and we'll say Lou and at test or that NCAA. That's not a correct address, of course. And then save. So here's the name that we added. It's updated in the list. And then so that's my first scenario. And then let's select that, and I can see the information that I added. And here is the other information. So all of them are connected and all of them are working. You can add another one. So we'll do John Smith. And save. So here is the all the information, and notice all of them are being built using the same prototype cell. So this is very good so far. The only problem is that all of this is saved in memory. So once we stop the simulator or close the app and start it again, those new contacts that we added will be erased. So in order to persist the contacts that we add or delete, we need to save to a file, and this will be the next iteration, to save contacts to a file. So let's commit and push to the repository and work on the next iteration. So this is added new contact feature, and then push to remote. So commit 4 files and push. And we'll continue in the next video.